Hello, and welcome to the Oracle and Apps Associates webinar, Building a Cloud Strategy for Oracle E-Business Suite. My name is Julian Troke, and I am the Senior Director of Marketing at Apps Associates, and I will be your host today. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording, as well as the PowerPoint slides, will be sent out to you in the next couple of days. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat window and send your question to the host, and Julie Quinn from Oracle will ask these questions for us at the end of the webinar. We may also choose to ask a few questions throughout the presentation. Now I'd like to hand you over to our speaker, John Schmotlak, the Vice President of Delivery at Apps Associates. John, over to you.
Thank you, Julian. Appreciate everybody's time today. As far as the agenda for today's webinar, we'll do a little bit of introductions about myself and Apps Associates. I'm going to move on to the Oracle application roadmaps so you can understand a little bit about what's happening in the EBS and cloud world within Oracle, and then talk about moving workloads to the cloud and various options that we have associated with that. We're going to take a dive into platform as a service as additional tools that can be leveraged as part of your cloud migration strategy. And then we're going to finish off with some of the benefits that we've noticed as we've been moving some workloads into the cloud, into the public cloud offerings, that, compare and contrast to what you are dealing with from an on-premise element today. And then, as Julian said, we'll open it up for any questions that have been asked via the chat window. And try to answer some questions at the end. A little bit about Apps Associates. We're a global IT consulting services provider with a heavy focus on Oracle as a key partnership. We've been incorporated for 15 years, headquartered in the Boston area with offices up and down the East Coast and in Denver, as well as Hyderabad, India, and in Germany. We have about 800 employees. We have 25 plus live Oracle Cloud projects and live customers on those areas. And our areas of focus are both within platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, as well as the SaaS-based applications. So very heavily focused on customer journeys into the cloud. We have specializations in Oracle's infrastructure as a service, and we're also specialized as Oracle Management Cloud, which are new, is a new designation for us this year. We offer services that surround business applications, analytics, custom development and integration, infrastructure and cloud services, as well as some product development that we build and resell to customers. A little bit about my background. I have about 20 years of experience, primarily focused on using business systems more effectively within organizations. I've done multiple internal positions as well as consulting organization leadership positions over the years. Originally, my background was in an order management supply chain perspective, right? And so that's kind of how I started in my Oracle journey, implementing order management in 1103. And over the years, my focus has been primarily on coming in and helping customers assess where they were at from a business systems perspective, and then transforming that and modernizing that to assist them with getting more efficiency of the investments that they've made in business systems. I've participated with Oracle on customer advisory boards for the Fusion applications and transferred that into, helping Apps Associates build out a cloud applications practice and really take a leadership role amongst that area. And now where we're at is a lot of customers are focused on how do I actually do this transformation from running on-premises applications to moving to the cloud, and when is the right time for me? So that's a lot of the conversations that I have with customers these days that is very big focus of some of the content that we're talking about today. So let's start out by talking about the roadmaps. And this is key for everybody on the phone on this webinar. Most of you, I'm assuming, are running EBS in some form or fashion in your organization, right? You may be on 12.1.3, you may be on 12.2, you may be on an earlier version and just looking to see what options are out there. But one of the key things to keep in mind from an EBS perspective is that there is a runway of time in there where Oracle is committed to supporting EBS applications, right? So 12.1 release through December 2021, 12.2 release through September of 2023. And then the mysterious 12.x release, meaning whatever is coming next as a, kind of a point release for the applications. Oracle has recently made statements that they'll support that for at least through 2030. So keep in mind the fact that if you're running EBS today and you're thinking, I've got to migrate all my applications into Fusion applications or cloud applications within Oracle's SaaS products, that's not necessarily the case. And it's important to understand that you have a window of time here to really be able to make good decisions for your organization. And so these are stated numbers that are, formally presented out there. And it's important for us to keep that in mind, is that while there are new options that are available to us, staying on EBS is another one of those options for us to pay attention to, right? In fact, last year when they released 12.2.6 on EBS, they were still introducing new functionality. And while this slide is kind of an eye chart, it's designed to show you that there's a variety of new functionality across all of the modules where new pieces of functionality, new activities are actually being released, and they're still investing in EBS as a product, right? Now, we do know that there are, Fusion applications which are also released, and, there's a lot of activity going around there. But keep in mind that with a commitment to a 12.x release, another, point release there's still going to be new functionality that's going to be released and available for people to take advantage of. Now, this is just another picture of the support timelines, right? Key things to pull away from here is, that there is a path for you to go from 12.1.3 to 12.2. There's a path for 12.2 to 12x, whatever that element is, that you're looking at a timeline of 4 to 7 to 13 years from now to be able to support running that EBS environment that's there. One of the other things that's key as we walk through here is that as far as the Cloud ERP and Cloud ERP Fusion applications, Oracle SaaS, all referring to the same things here, that is actually on a rapid fire release schedule, right? So currently on release 12, soon to be up on release 13, which is introducing a tremendous amount of new functionality, yet still not necessarily a complete replacement for what's available in EBS today, right? So if you kind of look at that middle column, there's a significant amount of release functionality going from a supply chain perspective, right? So while that may be interesting to you, it is on the first official release, with Oracle to be releasing these products, right? And so we expect that we will continue to see innovation coming within the Fusion applications and especially in the supply chain areas, but it may not necessarily be there yet for you. So, the counsel that we give to our customers is really, really summarized by what we've been talking about here, is you have a window of time before you need to make a move to Oracle SaaS. Right, the Oracle SaaS is developing, fantastic functionality, and there's lots of benefits to actually making a move there, right? But you need to, determine when to make that move where it's most appropriate for you, where you can actually have like-for-like functionality, available for you, right? Which leads a lot of our customers to say, we want to put that on our roadmap for for 2 years from now or 4 years from now or 5 years from now, right? So that's kind of the point of this slide, is that cloud will continue to innovate, and we will continue to find additional functionality available in there that will help make it an easier transition from EBS. So what are we really talking about with our customers if they're saying, I want to stay on EBS? I think the pressure is always to reduce the cost of running your EBS environment, right? That's typically what we hear, is that, we've invested a lot over the years. Maybe we've spent, a significant amount of money upgrading our environment to 12, and we don't want to basically write that off and move to a brand new system at this point, right? But there's still pressure to reduce that annual cost of supporting and maintaining your EBS environment as you may be investing in other tools, right? About 90% of our customers are going to be running some application in the cloud, by next year, right? And a lot of times what you'll see is that that's in the form of CRM systems like Salesforce or Oracle CRM systems, CX solutions. It could be an HCM solution. It's starting to actually transition from an ERP solution, as some of the smaller customers are actually starting to invest in that solution as a real option for them, right? So we really see that migration path from an ERP solution or an on-premise HCM solution to a cloud solution, new products that are actually being implemented out there are primarily cloud-based application solutions, right? But again, because we have this window of support from an EBS perspective, we do expect that migration path will actually draw out over the next 10 years or so, right, before it's actually going to be, forced upon the customer to move to the cloud. So that allows you to make that move when it's appropriate for you, right? And again, we keep stressing that as a point here, right? So what are we really doing? It's obvious that there are, kind of target timelines in place, right, for us to be able to make a migration like this. But we need to continue to look at reducing the cost. And a lot of our customers have looked at a hybrid cloud strategy as a way of reducing cost. And so we'll get into this a little bit, right? When we're talking about hybrid cloud, we're really talking about taking your application and moving it from an on-premise server, which may be located in a data center or in your own facility, and actually running that application in a public cloud provider. We at Apps Associates have been doing this over the years for probably 5 or 6 years now, and we have over 40 customers that are running their production EBS environments in the public cloud. So this is not a new concept by any stretch, right? What is new, and a lot of the focus of this webinar is going to be really talking about where Oracle is actually entering into this public cloud with their bare metal cloud service offering, right? So this is Oracle's relatively new infrastructure as a service offering, right? It has been something that has been completely designed from the ground up to really be focused on optimizing Oracle and Oracle-related technologies, as well as being flexible enough to be able to take a variety of edge applications and application modernization concepts and be able to kind of host everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and give you a little pointers around that, some of the tools that are available for you. In general, with those 40 customers that are live on, running their EBS on the public cloud, the thing that we hear most often is that it's a huge cost savings for them to be able to kind of spin up a server whenever they want, spin up an instance for whatever project that they need, and then shut that down. It doesn't involve a hardware expense, right? It doesn't ever really go out of end of life associated with that server. So if you think about, I have an initiative where I need an instance for 6 months, that's a kind of an easy 6-month process for you to actually go through, right? And you are able to actually spin that up and, get there relatively quickly so that you have more control of your own time frames, right? So let's talk about the concept of moving some of these workloads to the cloud. So Oracle has 6 journeys to the cloud, and this is something that I think you'll see a lot of over the coming years. There's lots of options, and you've probably heard about options around optimizing how you're running on-premise or optimizing your on-premise solution while keeping your servers present there and kind of outsourcing the maintenance associated with that. That's one of the things that Oracle calls cloud at customer, right? We're not going to focus on those 2 paths today, nor are we really going to talk about going into the SaaS applications. We're really going to be focusing in on what we can do with our on-premises EBS install today and where we can actually make some change. So these middle 2 paths are the ones that we're really going to be looking at today. So really from when we talk about workload migration, we're actually talking about, when I was running business systems for a variety of customers, I was always talking about my enterprise business systems stack, right, which typically was made up of EBS, but it might have a homegrown bug tracking system associated with that. It may have a customer support system tied to it. There may be something that's in the cloud, like a Salesforce or something like that that's in the cloud. And I'm looking at my entire stack of applications and the number of different servers that I was using to run with it. And, one of the key things to kind of keep in mind is that when we're talking about this infrastructure as a service, bare metal cloud service offering, right, you can move your Oracle applications, and that could be PeopleSoft or EBS or whatever, anything that's running on premises into one of these environments, into these cloud environments, and you still have full access to be able to do all the things that you can do today, right? So you can still access the database by SQL Developer. You can still connect into the web services. It's not controlled. It's controlled by you. It's just on a public cloud-based server that's there, right? But it doesn't have to end there, right? We talk about ISV applications and things that are, those third-party applications that are tied into your enterprise stack. Those can also move into a cloud server in the Oracle Cloud. Development applications, right, and what we would call bespoke applications, which would be, again, hosted on a different server, right, today. Those can also be moved up to there. And then databases, middleware install, business intelligence servers, all of those things that if you look at all the servers that you have running in your on-premises, deployment today, any one of those can actually go up to the cloud, right? So when we start to look at kind of targeting the applications to run, on the cloud, you have the applications themselves moving over there, right? But you also have the rest of the enterprise stack as well, right? They don't all have to go big bang, right? So you may come up with a strategy that focuses you moving your EBS deployment off of an on-premises server and moving it into the cloud, to be able to, kind of drop that server, right? Leaving the other component parts running on premises, right? And then bring those in at a later time, right? So, the hybrid cloud is typically a journey for customers where you don't go from point A to point B where you're 100% running in the public cloud. You're typically breaking them into smaller projects to go from there. But typically, the projects that we see start with the core ERP or core CRM on-premises stack, because that's usually where the most amount of, firepower is located, probably aging servers, those types of things that come into play. So Goal is to actually move those into the cloud, as a primary focus, of your project from there, right? And so we'll kind of talk through a little bit about what that looks like on the next couple slides. One of the things that I think is very interesting when you actually do make a move to a public cloud offering like this is that there are ways to be able to provide your team, your development teams, the ability to provision their own instances for their own purposes, right? And so if you think about making a gold copy of your EBS environment that you use to be able to, do refreshes and some of those things, and the amount of coordination it takes from an offline perspective to kind of get all those things in here. There are easy ways for people to be able to spin up anything from an instance, a brand new instance, through a console, if you will, where, I can actually take an image created in, July of 2017 and spin up my own environment from for whatever my project is, from there. So allowing you to be able to create a console of, tasks that your team can do versus, having to outsource and rely on a DBA team, let's say, be able to do that is definitely a key element associated with that. Not something that typically you have self-service on with an on-premises install like this, right? So, we have these examples on the screen right now are focused on a few different, elements of the application itself or an integration platform, things like that. This could literally be any application that you're running into. So if you think about that, even if you didn't want to make this a self-service mode for your customers, for your team today, you could actually have this be your console, right? Where today your process may be to log a ticket, to schedule a time. The ticket gets picked up by your DBA team. They kind of do a bunch of manual steps to kind of create the image, or maybe they have an automated instance out there. But this is kind of putting the power into your own hands to be able to have your image stored someplace and be able to actually launch and deploy new environments when you're ready, when you need them. So a lot of flexibility associated with that. So when we have been migrating people's applications into the cloud, we're typically doing a level of like a 4-stage methodology that would go along with this, right? And the assessment piece is really talking about how familiar is the customer to using the public cloud, right? Maybe you've used public cloud providers and services in the past, and so this is a very comfortable thing. Maybe it is a brand new concept for the organization, and so some education is involved with this, right? We talked about getting a roadmap in place, right? And so if you have 25 applications that need to move into the cloud, you're not likely going to move all 25 of them one time, one shot, and go big bang on that, right? So there would be a roadmap that would be discussed around that. And then there's also some level of, business process and discovery there. What are you trying to get out of the move to the cloud? Is it purely just a financial transaction to reduce cost? Are there some of that self-service capabilities that we were just looking at on the previous slide? So really understanding the meaning behind why we're doing this project, right? And then, understanding all that, moving into that second phase of actual migration, right? There's a design of the cloud architecture, so things like compute power, right? Sizing, storage, those are elements that you want to be able to architect up front prior to actually doing the migration. And then it's really just a lift and shift of the application. So you're essentially doing a reinstall of the applications on the public cloud, right, from an image, almost like you're creating a brand new environment that comes out there, right? There are some very exciting things happening right now in terms of tools to, help us to automate that process a little bit, and you'll see that on the last slide that we're talking about roadmap. Right? There's also an element of maybe it's not just the lift and shift, but maybe the public cloud provides you with abilities to modernize, some of your applications that you're looking to try to move, right? So from our experience, I may have an application, a homegrown application that was written in Microsoft Access, and we want to be able to rewrite that in, a different, a more open source, coding language, right? So you're going like for like on functionality, but you want to modernize it because you need to be able to, offer up, things like mobile, or maybe a more modern user interface associated with it, or maybe you need to rebuild some elements of that. So that little bullet point called modernize is really focusing around the fact that there are tools that will now be available to you to be able to help support that, right? So, in a nutshell, that migrate box is very specific to, kind of lift and shift. On the integrate part, as a roadmap piece, you may have some applications that are still hanging out on premise for the time being. You may be choosing to, kind of do an integration to Salesforce, right? There's going to be changes around, where this EBS environment is located in the public cloud that need to be adopted, from there. So there could be an element of the platform as a service solution, from Oracle in there. There could be SaaS-based applications, as we've discussed about, and there may be some leftover pieces on the on-premises side that need to be, integrated and moved in. Right? And then from a management perspective, there's it's essentially putting a toolkit in the hands of the customer now, right? And so there'll be, ways of actually evaluating if you're, how are you managing it? How are you working with, the Oracle Cloud Operations team to be able to process this, new options that you have for governance and change management, and DevOps and actual automating its deployment is now, pretty relevant within these public cloud systems, right? And so there may be elements of this that will be brand new key learnings for the team to be able to come up to speed to do a little self-service managing within there. So this is a typical flow. They change, for the different customers that we have. That should give you an idea about what we're looking at, for making a move like that. Just a little case study, because you always like to hear about customers that are doing this. Problem is that they're at a colo facility right now, spending a lot of money. They have aging hardware, so they're looking at the hardware refresh associated with it, right? Running EBS Hyperion and some standalone Oracle databases, right? And they really wanted to be able to improve upon their access points and how employees would actually be able to access the applications, across the board and there. So they've actually taken, their entire stack here over time, right, and moved them onto the bare metal cloud services, products from there, right? And sizable storage, 60 terabytes of storage, a decent number of VMs and databases that are there, and again, think about that this is a scalable solution, right? So you can kind of scale up or down as necessary, right? So if 70 terabytes of object storage was not enough, a year from now, you can kind of increase that on the fly, right, without having to, kind of getting a new server and kind of platforming from there. So key piece that you realized is, a significant performance increase, right? And again, the bare metal cloud service is being developed to optimize running Oracle on Oracle. You've heard this story over the years about Oracle runs best on Oracle, right? And, Exadata platforms and Exalytics and the compute power that's behind those physical servers, they've designed it to be able to handle the architecture of the Oracle applications in the best possible way. So we see that in a performance improvement, across the board, right? They also were able to consolidate some of those databases that they had, standalone databases that had kind of grown like mushrooms over the time, where they were able to do a consolidation to make it simpler to manage and to have fewer integration points associated with that. So this is a very typical business case that we make for our customers, and is pretty integrated with what we're doing. Okay, so that's really the concept of kind of replatforming on the cloud and the bare metal cloud service, right? Now we're kind of looking at what else can you add on there on this platform as a service offering that's there, right? So I want to take some time to understand a little bit about what is platform as a service and how do we best kind of pepper this in with a cloud migration process, right? So platform as a service is a lot of things in the Oracle world, right? You have everything from application development tools, right? So today you probably have your developers have JDeveloper that's installed on a laptop or a server or something like that, right? You have databases that are stored on other servers, right? You probably have some level of an integration solution or point-to-point solutions that are actually running off of other servers or the EBS application server. You may have a variety of different, BI solutions in place, right? So the platform as a service offering that Oracle has kind of brings everything together. And we refer to it as the ultimate toolkit. Okay, so if I needed to be able to do databases and Java development and integration as an example, those are component parts that I can actually activate as it goes through, and I'm running this in my cloud, right? So even though there's 30 or so individual bullet points in here, you're kind of activating parts of this to be able to support what you're trying to do. So the nice part about this is that if I was to in an on-premises environment, if I was to, let's say, get into a database, I wanted a new database on there, I have to identify a server, I have to identify and somebody to be able to do the installation. I need to download software, I need to be able to install it, I need to be able to get it up and running, and I need to be able to optimize it. And in a PaaS environment, you essentially are pointing and clicking and saying, I want a new database and I want it to be kind of configured this way. And it's kind of like you're popping something in the microwave and the bell rings and it's done, right? And then I want to, add in, backup services associated with it, right? That's just another activation that goes on to the same, type of server, right? So it's infinitely expandable, and you can also kind of restrict it as you need to be able to correspond with your needs, right? So there's no installation and software, downloads on your side to be able to support this, right? So lots of different options to solve problems or solve, things that for parts of what a client is actually looking for in here. We go to PaaS quite frequently to help resolve some things. So a couple examples of what we see most often. I have some customers that have zero disaster recovery, strategies in place, right? And a great solution associated with the PaaS environment is disaster recovery as a service, right? So, this would actually activate the backup cloud service tool set, right? It would essentially take and replicate a copy of your application environment, out in the cloud, right? And then, would allow you to be able to, you kind of outsource that monitoring and the replication of that information as a cloud-based tool that's associated with that. And so that's a service. So you don't need to buy another server to be able to do this. You basically connect it to your environment, whether your environment is in an on-premise environment, or even if your environment was moved to the bare metal cloud services like what we talked about before, this is actually handling, all that through a connection. And things that go away, you actually backing up the tape, you're paying for the service there, right? It's on the cloud, right? You do have some level of, recovery times, related to that, that are part of any normal disaster recovery, scenario. But it's all kind of handled for you as a service, right? So if you have no disaster recovery, solution in place, this is a very easy way for you to be able to get one in place and connect it in with your environments. DevOps capabilities. So we have customers today who are heavily focused on, DevOps as a deployment strategy and methodology for any of their application development. And the goal of, this entire process is to be able to, kind of automate the deployment associated with, any of the custom development pieces, to be able to, automate that process of deploying within the application stack. So in general, development tools within the on-premises side of Oracle, have not necessarily been able to, accommodate that automated deployment. And in here, with some of the features that are available for you as part of that PaaS bundle, you can, use these development, these open source development tools to build your applications, and then leverage the database service, that's on the PaaS environment to be able to build and package that in an automated fashion, and then deploy these apps anywhere you like. So if you're looking to do an application modernization, we gave that example of like a 20-year-old homegrown application, or you're looking to modernize that application, you'd likely be using these tools and leveraging a DevOps type of methodology to be able to deploy applications, more in a more DevOps-friendly environment. And we have one customer that has migrated their application deployment into a cloud infrastructure like this, where when they needed an application to be deployed out to a user, and I'm not talking about EBS, I'm talking about like a tool set that was used by their QA department for the purposes of, doing some testing, or, an online, kind of calculation, tool that was out there, that was being used, by several different people across the company. The process used to be that they would, submit a ticket, and 3 days later the application would be granted to them. And now they can actually come to a console, click the button, and within 10 minutes they have the application, available for them to run, and they don't have to install any software or download anything. So it really is the next generation of doing application development, and we're seeing significant progress being made at customers that are engaging in this type of a solution. And really just a continuation on this is the application development. So, being able to spin up, a brand new database in, 5 minutes or less is a key thing, right? And it's controlled from the same image. There's very few, person interactions as part of the process. And so to be able to, take these and, kind of package them up and then deploy them onto your different environments is a key part of actually completing that development lifecycle. So, another discussion, some of you may have forms customizations that are in place and developed. You have the ability to, kind of tap into that development tool that's, in the cloud, right? So there's no downloading and installing of that forms developer software. You actually would access that through the URL, come in there, it would be connected. You can actually tag on third-party products to be able to, support, other elements of the interaction, like the mobile, piece for some of these solutions that's in place, right? So it just kind of saves the aggravation of having a server or a laptop that has multiple Oracle homes to be able to connect to the database and go from there. It's all, connected via, the cloud is connected, via a connection, right? That's, cloud-based. And so you don't really need to, clutter up your laptop and get worried about uninstalling and reinstalling things in the order in which you're going to do that. So Forms is one example. You can think about reports. You can think about, SQL Developer. You can think about all these elements that, it kind of eliminates that local install. And then the last piece here, and this is something that we see quite a bit of, right, is part of that PaaS solution is they offer you a bundled service called Integration Cloud Service. And what this does is it gives you the ability to kind of rewrite some of those point-to-point solutions in a kind of a cloud-based integration platform, right? So it is a version of the Fusion middleware product that has really been developed to be much more cloud-centric, right, in integrating different cloud providers that are out there. So they could be different Oracle cloud solutions, right? So you could be looking at bringing, Eloqua and ERP Cloud together. You could be looking at Eloqua and EBS. You could be looking at Salesforce and EBS. And this gives you like a middleware platform in the cloud that's really just designed for you to be able to configure endpoints and data transformations and be able to move your data back and forth. So if you don't have a middleware solution or you're looking to maybe improve upon what you've done, Integration Cloud Service is a huge benefit for you to be able to support some of those integrations and to maybe reduce the maintenance costs associated with building that. This is a little bit more kind of point and click and drag and drop from an integration perspective than some of the development that would be done on a full-blown Fusion middleware installation that's there. So, and then the other thing that we see is that there's a marketplace of pre-built integrations, right, that's available for you to be able to bring in here. And so this is a big expectation as you're kind of bringing in, information like SurveyMonkey into your, environment, right, that you're not going to build that from scratch. You're actually going to go out there and pull one of the connectors down, which will kind of give you the baseline of code there, and then you just map your integration from there. So definitely see, if we were lifting and shifting your EBS environment out there, that there would be a value in actually tagging on Integration Cloud Services to be able to support.
Hey, John, we had a good question that came in while you were speaking there that now would be a good time, I think, to respond to, which was, could you give a ballpark timescale for this kind of e-business suite migration to the cloud? How long does it normally take for one of these projects?
I would say we're usually somewhere around 6 weeks to be able to go, fully through an iteration, testing, and then, kind of deployment from there. The actual migration itself doesn't take but, a day or less, right? It's around kind of ensuring that the performance is running correctly, that the application is connected, and then it really depends on any modernization or changes are in there would likely increase the timeline. But the migration itself is relatively short.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So, just to wrap up on the benefits, right? So these are hard numbers, that we're seeing. And the first slide here is really going to show you about, some of the, key points that we've been trying to make here. So that rapid provisioning, the fact that you're not actually buying hardware, needing to refresh, there is a lower TCO associated with, running these in the cloud, right? So we have seen this for those customers that are actually, have migrated in the past, right? We've seen this number come in. We expect that, if anything, on the Oracle Bare Metals Cloud Service side, that this is going to, continue to be what historically we find has a lower total cost of ownership. So that CIO coming to you and saying, I need to reduce the overall spend of what we include in running our EBS environment. This is one very easy way for you to be able to immediately make an impact, right, and not have to sacrifice performance and support there, right? There's a soft element of this that you'll be able to do more by adding on, paths, as we've talked about there, having an automated migration process. You'll be able to actually have more control of some of the deployments of new packages, new code, that type of stuff, right? And then that centralized management really takes an element of traditional DBA and sysadmin supports and kind of brings it in-house for you to be able to do that. So you're not 100% outsourcing tasks any longer, right? And to get to the point where, you want to deploy a new environment, you're going to see significant speed associated with that process, right? So this is any cloud provider, but, certainly you're going to see the difference is going to come with the Oracle solution around the lower compute costs and the better performance associated with running on bare metal cloud services versus another cloud provider, right? So we've done the bare metal cloud service, EBS on bare metal cloud service, in the comparison to, other products that are out there, right? And these are just some of the numbers that we've seen, right, from a support perspective. The biggest improvement is, installing the software, configuring the software, patching time, database response time. A lot of this is the way that the bare metal cloud service product has been architected, right? That actually helps to, really focus on Oracle. That's a big part of the message here, right? But there are ways that they've optimized, this tool set to be able to really help show significant progress here. So these are real live stats comparatively, right? With certainly having numbers, beside it. We've done kind of time trial type things just to try to get a feel for what we're looking at from an improvement perspective. So a little bit on the roadmap, again, another eye chart, but one of the things that I want you to kind of keep in mind is that lift and shift, the automation of the lift and shift process, right, is key for us, key for everybody. There's lots of manual elements today where we could actually move the environments and kind of install it. And for us, it's just like installing on a new server. That server just happens to be in the cloud. But the new things coming out this quarter, Oracle quarter, and beyond are really talking about being able to do some automation tools for lift and shift, for provisioning environments, the elements there across EBS, PeopleSoft, and JD Edwards, right? So key developments in here to continue to modernize and make that process easier for you to go with. So that question that we had about how much time does it take, it could really drastically drop this down because you're not going to have, people involved in the middle of the process. You've automated the process of that. So as an offer for people on the webinar, one of the things that we have provided here is the ability to kind of test out this theory, see what it's all about, and take one of your non-production EBS environments and actually work on migrating that environment into a bare metal cloud service environment that's there, right? And so there's a QR code here that you can scan right now. We'll bring you to our website to be able to do to register for something like that, or we'll be sending out a copy of the slides later, and you can come up with that from there. But this is really a free trial to show you what it's like. It's temporary in nature, but it's designed to be able to show you what that process looks like. And so this is a good way for you to be able to dip your toe in here and see what it's all about at no risk to you. So great offer. We've had lots of customers take us up on this.